So why are we so interested in looking at the dark side of the humanity that the true crime genre brings us? And how is it affecting our brain, our DNA, and our view on life and on ourselves? Let's dive into the shadows of human mind and find out. The paradox of human nature is to look, although we are afraid to look. But why we do that? And why the crime genre inclines to be more popular among ladies? In this episode, we are focusing on how the true crime, the real investigations, police interrogations, and court cases are taking life within our brain. Welcome to the psychology, mysteries, true crime, and weird accent. This is game called life, where we observe the human mind. Interest in true crime serves a number of different psychological and evolutional purposes. Let us start with the evolutional. Why we have to look? Have you noticed how small children, when they are afraid of something, they can't stop looking at the trigger that terrified them? They do run into safety, but they still keep looking, although this keeps upsetting and scaring them. This is our very basic survival instinct that tells us to observe and memorize the danger. It needs to be recorded, so we could be able to avoid such things in the future. And not only that, as I mentioned, majority of the crime genre lovers appear to be ladies. This is because it is so programmed into our system that the mother, as the nurturer of the new life, must record that imprint so it will be passed on to the offsprings via DNA. We are basically coding ourselves. Mitochondrial DNA is passed exclusively from mother to offspring, and it carries ancient information from maternal lineage. Information that actually can be tracked back to an ancestor from about 150,000 to 200,000 years. It is proven that specific genetical imprint from traumatic experiences carries through at least 2 to 7 generations, and this includes certain specific fears, hardships, and even particular smells or sounds. So this is why some of us can feel anxious or unpleasant when coming across some situations or smells without having any personal memory of said trauma tied to those things. So there is very specific and organized transgenerational transfer of information going on, which helps the species to survive. And the stronger the trauma, the longer it will be passed on. Have you noticed having certain fears or reactions to something weird or random that you know you have not came across yourself? Let me know down in the comments. For example, I have a weird anxiety when I hear the old type airplane flying. I really have a need to locate it and keep my eyes on it until it disappears. So, as my immediate ancestors lived through both world wars, and with all the air attacks, I am suspecting that is why. And now, when we apply that onto all people, not only self, then most of us have an interesting cluster of inherited fears or misfortunes, which are creating a base of some sort for who we are and how we react in different situations. Add the self-experienced things there, and you will get a bigger picture on the road to understanding the being of human. There's also this guilty-smelling paradox behind it, the thank goodness it is not me feeling. And if it had to happen, I'm glad it happened to someone else rather than me. The relief over our own life situation in the tune of, it might be not all fine and dandy in my life right now, but oh boy, I'm really good compared to this. And not in an ill-wishing way, we still are feeling truly sorry for the victims and wish them all the best. It is just human nature to feel that way. Now let's go even deeper. On the more darker side of our psyche, there can also be the feeling of relief over not being the perpetrator too. Why? Because we all have been angry, we all have been frustrated, and we all have impulses. So the fact that we ourselves have not acted upon them makes us feel relieved, thankful, and also better about ourselves. Like criminal forensic psychologist Dr. Paul G. Mattiusi had said, murder is a most fundamental taboo and also perhaps a most fundamental human impulse. So by living it through from a distance and contemplating over the what-ifs and analyzing our own feelings through the point of view of every party in every different story, we can obtain better understanding of ourselves, become more mindful and more self-aware. We also learn to observe our surroundings and people by learning how to step into someone else's shoes. We get a better grip on our own emotions as well as understand others and their feelings. So, watching the true crime stories gives us the way to rehearse our emotions and feelings without having to get hurt ourselves. Unlike real-life trauma experienced firsthand, we are now able to analyze, negotiate, and discuss those feelings and experiences, and ask ourselves all the questions. What would I do? How would I act or react? And how would I cope with or resolve this situation myself? And never before in history have we had such opportunities to gather this information without actually having to be present for any of this, experiencing first or second hand nothing. We can observe these things from distance, from safety of our home. And the why is more important than the how. We look for the meaning behind what people do, the why done it rather than who done it. Because we need to understand the mind of the criminal, what triggers them, why they did what they did, what's the backstory that led to this. So why people who look and even act completely normal turn to be killers? This is what we need to find out. We need to know what went wrong and how can we ourselves avoid ending up in similar situations. And the true crime is offering us a sort of playing field to practice the skill of awareness about human conditions and motives. It's an opportunity to get a glimpse into the minds of people who have committed and are capable of committing such heinous acts. So by observing, we can learn to be more aware and mindful and not to jump into conclusions, not to assume things from others, thinking that everyone has the similar motivations and sense of justice as we have. We all perceive reality differently according to our background, upbringing, life experiences, what we have seen, read, and learned. We also learn to accept that we cannot narrow down any specific threat according to our own views and truths, because something really general or meaningless to us can be a trigger and activator to someone else. And through a wide variety of different stories and activators, we learn to observe more and hopefully avoid activating any potential triggers in people. Have you so far learned something important about yourself thanks to your interest in true crime? For some, watching true crime stories helps to unwind and forget the mundane worries, experiencing emotional release and projecting inner tension onto something external. For others, when life is really rough, watching those stories can become a form of escapism, distraction from the real problems or difficulties. And as with everything, overexposure and overdosing can have not so favorable results. This can easily lead to anxiety, bad sleep patterns, and fear of taking even minor but essential risks in life. It can also bring forth a shift in attitude towards people, having fear of becoming a victim, and not wanting to partake in the dangerous world out there. And this brings us to the last section of why we are infatuated with crime stories. The justice. We need the story have an ending, preferably happy ending, as happy it can be. So we need to see the judicial system working and the good winning over bad. We need to see that crime is followed by punishment. And we need the sense of closure. It's comforting for us. And on that comforting note, this story ends. Stay aware, stay mindful, and stay safe.